Welcome to the Richard Sherman Podcast YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our playoff content. You know it's going to get busy. I mean, you might get a bar or two.
And the other one, the big one, up in Seattle. You know, what are your thoughts on their move? Pete Carroll, obviously, I know it's got to be a little emotional to see him leave. I know he meant so much to you in your career. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about what Pete meant to you as a head coach, and then we'll talk a little bit about the new guy.
Yeah, I think Pete was an incredible leader of men. He established such an incredible culture in Seattle that it still resonates to this day. Young men still come and speak to this team about the culture that he built. The men that he coached still come into the building and try to make a difference and try to help. And even in their coaching search this year, while they were searching for their next head coach, a lot of it was culture. A lot of it was, hey, we have established a very positive and encouraging culture here. We don't want somebody to come in here and change that. We're looking for a little bit more accountability. We're looking for a little bit more of a not a heavy-handed approach, but just a more strict regimen, tighter ship than Pete started to run at the end. But for the most part, in terms of culture and the way that he did things, the way he talked to players, the way he communicated, I think he did a fantastic job, and so did Jody Allen, and so did John Snyder. So that's the conversations that they're having with their head coach, their potential head coaches when they come in. I think Mike Macdonald is one of the most brilliant defensive minds in the National Football League right now, and I think the reason that they brought him in is because he's so ingenuitive. If you watch the tape and you watch his defense perform, there'll be 6 to 7 guys on the line of scrimmage, and you will not know what positions they're playing or who's blitzing or who doesn't. Not that that's incredibly unique. There are a lot of teams that do that, but the way he did it, the way that he utilized Kyle Hamilton, at times he's playing safety, normal safety. At times he's playing linebacker. I saw him play D end at times, nickel. And when you see a guy like that, it's hard to peg that defense. Like I'm watching the defense and I'm sitting there like, wait, is Roquan Smith at nickel right now? Like there's no way he's the middle field safety. And so when you can't peg a defense, it makes them very difficult to prepare for. It makes them very difficult to create blocking schemes for, because you can't predict who's blitzing, who's not blitzing. Jadeveon Clowney's at nose tackle. You're like, I don't know what to tell the center at that point in time. Pray. You know what I mean? I hope you're a religious man, because you're going to need whoever your person is to protect you on this play, because this guy's built to something that they don't make anymore. But I think that he's going to be a great fit in Seattle because they have a lot of pieces on defense that you could utilize in that way. They have good young linebackers. They have a good secondary. Hopefully they're able to retain the Pro Bowler in Julian Love and Quandre Diggs, but Witherspoon is going to be used in the same way that Kyle Hamilton was. I think they got great corners on the outside. I think Tariq Woolen is still a great corner. I know he had a down year tackling, but he did a great job in coverage. The things that he struggled with are correctable. I think it's a great fit. Who their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator is going to make a huge difference. Obviously, the reason they haven't hired a defensive coordinator is because McDonald's going to call the defense, and not a lot of guys are willing to walk into a situation where they're not going to get credit. So, who they get? Right, it's not going to be anybody you know. But they apparently Seattle just hired a defensive coordinator, but it's not going to be a big name because he's not giving them that power. They're not going to call the defense, and nobody's stepping in if they have other opportunities into a situation where they're not going to get credit for calling the defense. So if the defense is number one in the land, they're going to be like, well, I mean, we're not going to steal your head coach, and you don't call the defense, so it's nothing. And so you want to walk into a situation, if you have opportunities to be in a situation where you get credit for calling defense, good, bad, or indifferent, it's on you. And so I think that's why people aren't like jumping off the roof to go interview for that spot, because as in Washington, they're not calling defense. The head coaches are, and it's hard to get a head coaching position from those spots.
Well, for me, it seemed the obvious route was get back to basics. Seattle was always known, the Legion of Boom, something you started for their defense, right? And it seemed like that identity kind of shifted ever since you guys all left, right? This is a smart hire, in my opinion. Right. Now the eyes kind of shift a little bit back to Geno Smith. Do you still have faith in him as the guy in Seattle?
Yeah, I still have total faith in Geno. I got faith in K9. I got faith in their weapons. I think it's tough to win in this league. And that's why it was so weird that they fired Pete. But I understand. You're ready to move. Jody Allen's hearing all these whispers like, well, new hot coaches. Like, we got to try something new, something different. The difference is not always better. And I think they'll find out, over time. But I think Macdonald will do a great job. I think schematically he's going to do a great job. He's going to give Kyle problems. He's going to give McVay problems, even though McVay had some success against them when they played this year. Baltimore won on that overtime punt return. But I think at the end of the day, those guys are still good players. DK is still a good player. Tyler Lockett. JSN is going to be a good player. K9, those two tackles are still good. They got banged up throughout the season, so there was some shuffling on the offensive line. That's always tough to deal with. So there'll be some better play next year, and they weren't an awful team. They weren't 4-12 or 4-13, 5-12 team. They were a 9-8 team. They were a winning team that just missed the playoffs. And so I think there's a lot of optimism to be seen, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing defensively and if it's a drastic difference.
There was a lot of big names that we expected to get, named head coaches that are still on the market. What's the biggest name that you're surprised did not get a job?
Biggest name that's on the market that didn't get Eric Bieniemy is probably the biggest that didn't even get a coordinator job, which is concerning because I didn't hear the negatives that everybody else heard, but now I'm starting to. Like, he's just a hard-nosed, old-school coach, which just isn't great for millennials. And that's the unfortunate truth of how we're doing. They're soft, and they got to be coached a certain way. That's why these guys. That's why Saban retired from Alabama. He said, I can't do it anymore. I've got to pay kids and convince them to stay when winning isn't just enough. I can't guarantee you $1 million. I can't guarantee you all this. I can guarantee you if you play well and you do what I ask you to do, you'll go to the NFL, you'll make a lot of money, you'll win national championships. And when that's not enough, Mitchell, it's tough. Because every year, regardless of how well you do, regardless of how well you coach, guys are going to come to you having awkward conversations about how much money they're going to make the next year. And college coaches, that's why they don't coach in the National Football League, because they don't want to have those conversations. They don't want to deal with that. And so they coach college. And now they have to deal with that in college. Saban's like, all right.
I'm done.
I'm done. I'm not about to talk to this 18-year-old kid who does absolutely nothing for my team and try to convince him to stay on my team and not transfer to Ohio State because he wants to get paid $1 million to sit on the bench for my team. I got you. It's going to be tough. I don't ever want to coach college. I don't know if I want to coach at all. Maybe in 10 years, Mitchell, when I'm done saying what I got to say about the league, I'll give coaching a shot. Hopefully the game is changed.